We are halfway through the NFL season. The MVP narrative is really starting to form. Coaches are losing their jobs, and every week brings us new surprises. Starting things off, a matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. A game I bet you didn't think we'd be talking about. But the result of this game got Dennis Allen fired. The Panthers won their second game of the year. They still have by far the worst point differential in NFL history through the first 9 weeks, but that doesn't matter. They are a winning team. Their reward is getting to go play in the Hitler Bowl next week in Germany against Daniel Jones. So is that really what you want for a win? Probably not, but here we are.
Do you really want to say Hitler that short into the video?
I'll go ahead and throw it out there. I mean, you know who Daniel Jones is. You want me to say Mustache Man Bowl? Dennis Allen got canned, though. And as someone who has sat in this chair and threatened to send him a Chinese dictionary for the past 10 weeks, this feels pretty good. Dennis Allen was never the guy. He was not the guy in Oakland, was not the guy in New Orleans last year, and that entire team, that organization is an absolute mess. We know the roster issues. We know they're going to be paying next year, and we know Derek Carr throws hospital passes to the point Michael Thomas is spazzing out on him on Twitter. All in all, fantastic game of football. I'll talk a little bit more about Bryce Young later, but man, this game moved me. This one meant a lot.
Dennis Allen, the Saints, they started the year off hot. Their defense looked extremely good through 2 weeks. Their offense was cooking, and now they have the longest losing streak in the NFL among all of the teams that are 2-7. I think there are, 6 of them right now that have 2 wins. The battle for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth pick, it is going to come down to the wire this year. A lot of bad teams in the NFL. And when you take a look at this Saints team, I used to be a big Derek Carr supporter. I can no longer stand by him as much as I used to.
Worried Chris Olave's brother's going to come beat you up?
He just is not a winning quarterback anymore that can get your team to the playoffs. Maybe he'd be a solid backup for you to step in for a game or two. But when you're playing a Panthers team that you beat 47-10 the first time around, you have a running back that went for over 200 scrimmage yards in this game. This is a game you need to win, and it is why Dennis Allen got fired. The Panthers put up way too many points against Dennis Allen, who's supposed to be a defensive head coach, and the fact the offense still looks this bad, even though they've lost some key pieces in their receiver room, it was not a good sign, and they had to move on.
I mean, Carr, he benefited heavily from having a good O-line, a really good defense, a solid run game, prime Amari Cooper, and Michael Crabtree to throw to. He was, to use the word which is overused, a system quarterback. That's 2 words again. He was never this transcendent guy. He may have cracked the top 10 in some statistics at some point, but he was never the answer. Looking over, though, at a quarterback who might be the answer, Bryce Young played the best game of his young career. And it's not just he got the win, threw a touchdown. The ball was going where it needed to go. This was actually a pretty impressive passing performance. I am sure some of that, if not a lot of it, is due to the Saints' lack of a strong pass rush and somewhat weak defenders in their secondary, although that interception, which really should be a fumble on Xavier Legette, was insane. Having said that, Chuba Hubbard, very impressive performance. Xavier Legette finally taking some steps, looking like a real first-round receiver, worth that draft capital. And the Panthers' offense is shaping up a little bit. Will they be able to do this next week on a soccer field in Germany against a much better defense? It is hard to say, but encouraging signs in Carolina for Canales and those Panthers.
They're still really bad. I mean, Bryce Young, if that's the best performance of his career, there's still a lot of growing room for him to be a average starting quarterback or a solid starting quarterback in the NFL. So I don't think it's anything to get too excited about. That we
Are we just going to try and talk down Bryce Young and pretend he didn't have a good game?
Well, it's easy to talk down on him from...
Aren't you about the same height as him?
No, shut up. I'm not 5'9".
5'10 and a half, sure. Let's not do that. Let's not try and diminish the best performance of a young man's career. Bryce Young has overcome a lot of adversity to get here, least of which being drafted to the doomed Panthers. Going from 2 of the least desirable quarterbacks you'd want on your team to 2 of the quarterbacks you are begging your GM to go out and draft or trade for, the MVP race is really heating up this year. It's Lamar Jackson, it's Josh Allen, and it's nobody else. And both these teams won. The Bills and Ravens emerged victorious over the Broncos and the Dolphins. And the narrative I saw coming out of social media and Twitter this week was, oh, this is the performance which gets Lamar his 3rd MVP. He was great. He was sensational. Played a fine game, sure, played very well. He was the third most important part of the Ravens offense this week. Derrick Henry continued to do what Derrick Henry does. Don't need to drone on about him. And Zay Flowers had the game of his career. Phenomenal work after the catch from him against the Broncos secondary. He should be the one we are celebrating this week. You look over at the Bills, needed a 61-yard field goal to beat the Miami Dolphins, who are one of those 2-7 teams you referenced earlier. Not as good a performance from an optics standpoint. Still, I think Josh Allen outplayed Lamar Jackson this week. I don't think the narrative we should be taking away is either of these guys is really pulling away with the MVP race. Certainly not followed this week. I think trying to judge a quarterback based purely off the box score and purely off the production is going to lead to performances like Josh Allen's this week being completely overlooked. These are clearly the two top quarterbacks this year. Say what you want about Mahomes, he has not played on that level yet. And it's a bit concerning to see that most people, even awards voters, are just ignoring the reality of these games.
It's disingenuous to say that either anyone has ran away with any award this season because there is still a lot of football left to be played. We're 9 weeks through the season, and there's still another 9 weeks left. So I think it is impossible to say that, oh, this quarterback is guaranteed to win. If they don't win it, it's a travesty. I mean, we've seen in years past where Russell Wilson opens up the season on and some incredible rate, throwing a lot of touchdowns, and then he falls off towards the end of the year. So I think that's kind of not really the case, but when it comes to where things stand now, if these quarterbacks continue on their current paces, I think you are just not an objective person if you think Lamar Jackson doesn't deserve to win his third MVP, because the rates he's on are just incredible. He's on pace to have a better stat line than his 2019 campaign, which was unheard of. He's on pace for 37 touchdowns, 4,500 yards passing, has just 2 interceptions on the season, so I guess you double that to make it 4 interceptions, 953 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Every single statistical category right now, he is better than Josh Allen. The only thing Josh Allen has on him is the fact his team has lost 1 more game. So it's Lamar Jackson's to lose right now. If they both continue at their current paces, I don't think Josh Allen or anyone else should win.
Well, if they continue at their current paces, the Ravens are going to have 5-6 losses, which does matter in terms of the MVP race. This is going to come down to, in my opinion, you say statistical production in every category. Watch the games. It's not that shocking of a disparity, not that large of a disparity. They're pretty close. If Allen can pull off a win over the Chiefs this year, I think he wins MVP, which is a few weeks down the line. But if he is the one to put that 1 in the loss column for Kansas City, the one to finally knock Mahomes off, as he has shown a propensity to do in the regular season, I think that is going to swing a lot of discourse and a lot of narratives. I don't like the statue watching. I don't like attributing all of the Ravens' success to Lamar Jackson. I think there is a legitimate argument to be made that Derrick Henry is contributing just as much as Lamar is this year. Already at 1,000 rushing yards through 9 weeks of the season. Completely changed that Ravens offense.
Well, something else that needs to be taken into consideration when we talk about the Ravens offense and taking a look at their win total and why they have 3 losses right now is this offense is on pace to be the greatest offense of all time from a total yards in a single season perspective. So that is also going to be part of Lamar Jackson's narrative case, in my opinion, and it's really the defensive side of the ball that has let them down and why the team has lost some games, and Lamar can't exactly control that.
I don't know, man. Bad teammate, bad locker room energy, tiring his defense out all week by running around him at practice. These are the things the MVP voters should consider. Is Lamar Jackson making his defense worse by being too good in practice?
I don't think
I think that's a TikTok today. I think that's what we do.
I don't think that's the case, but as things stand now, it would take, as long as the Bills, Ravens win their divisions, I would be surprised if Lamar Jackson is not the MVP.
The key difference is one of those teams is actually in line to win their division right now, and the other one's competing with the Steelers.
Do we want to talk about the Steelers?
I think the Steelers could pretty easily steal a game from the Ravens this year. They've not played a defense as good as Pittsburgh. Also, you mentioned the Ravens defense, 10 points to the Broncos offense. Bo Nix more like throw picks. Anyway, I will let you go on and glaze Patrick Mahomes a little bit. You can go ahead and start. I'll ask you to leave the referee discourse to me because I actually have a more nuanced take than you might be ready for.
There's no delusional referee
Okay, we're starting
needed.
with it then. You are a petulant child who refuses to accept fault in your favorite TV product. Juwan Taylor committed a false start penalty on the play which gave the Chiefs 1st and goal. Having said that, I really don't care at this point in time.
Penalties happen for every team.
Except it was not called. Juwan Taylor is the most inconsistently officiated player in all of football. I would like him either to be given the ability to false start at will, or they penalize it every time. Because the continued saying of, oh, well, we're going to call it during the game, but on game-winning drives or in big moments, he can go ahead and get that lean back, then go ahead advantage on the defensive line when he's playing, it's not acceptable. It must be officiated consistently. Having said that, that's not why the Bucs lost the game. The Bucs lost the game because they didn't go for two. The Bucs lost the game because they let DeAndre Hopkins barbecue their sorry secondary. Admittedly, I was very impressed from what I saw from K. Dotton, Ryan Miller, the Buccaneers running backs, namely Bucky Irving. Very impressive performance in the absence of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. We thought this offense was going to roll over and die, and they had one of the best offensive showings against this Chiefs defense all year. And that magnet coin Mahomes pulled out at the end of the game, a little bit cheeky to start overtime, but that's some devil magic we don't need to quite get into. All in all, the Bucs season might not be over. The two losses to the Falcons really do hurt them, and playing San Francisco, playing Nick Bosa off an election is a dangerous thing to do. So if they lose next week to San Francisco, then they're in trouble. But I can kind of see them getting a wild card, particularly with how much our pals, the Chicago Bears, have fallen off.
The scariest thing about this Chiefs team is the fact that when they make mistakes, when they turn the ball over, that Travis Kelce fumble, they never seem to crumble. They're unflappable. They don't seem phased in the slightest. They'll go back their next drive, go score some points, get points back on the board, and they'll keep coming right at you.
Pause. Why are you laughing so much at that, man? There's nothing funny about that?
There's nothing funny about that. Then, with DeAndre Hopkins last night, he clearly was rotting on the Tennessee Titans. He still has a lot of gas left in the tank, and while he may not be in his athletic prime, he may not be as fast as he used to be, he clearly still knows how to get open against zone coverage, and is clearly capable of being a low-end wide receiver one in this Chiefs offense. And when you're looking at the rest of the Chiefs season, if you're a fan of a team in the AFC or you're a hater of the Chiefs, you have to be a little disheartened because eventually the Chiefs are going to get Isaiah Pacheco back. They may have Marquise Brown back come playoff time, and that is an offense you just do not want to deal with. This Chiefs team ran the ball 27 times with a past his prime Kareem Hunt. If that's Isaiah Pacheco, instead of 3.9 yards a carry, it's probably closer to 4.5 yards a carry. So this Chiefs team, the sky is the limit. They're only going to get better as they get healthier, and the receiver room with DeAndre Hopkins complements each other perfectly.
I think you're very wrong about the Kareem Hunt thing. First and foremost, Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea had arguably the best games of their careers. Phenomenal performance both in the run game and the pass rush. Really good linebacker play from the Buccaneers. That offense was not going to run the ball well if they had prime Adrian Peterson behind that offensive line. The Buccaneers defense did a really good job of defending the run this week. I don't think Pacheco makes a difference, particularly with a bunch of screws in his ankle. You're talking about only getting healthier. I just don't think that's the case. You're getting Pacheco back, sure. I don't see Rashee Rice coming back. Hollywood Brown potentially gone for the year. And Mecole Hardman is dealing with some injuries. Hard to say if he's going to be healthy all year, which means you are once again relying on Patrick Mahomes, who had a scary ankle injury, able to come back on the field, a really old Travis Kelce, and a really old DeAndre Hopkins to stay healthy for your offense to be able to perform at a high level in the playoffs. The good thing for the Chiefs is their offense does need to perform at that level to win playoff games, but still, I don't think going later into the year necessarily benefits this Chiefs team. They're one of the few organizations which will benefit from having that first round bye. We've seen Baltimore in the past cool off, lose their momentum. A veteran Chiefs team dealing with injuries will definitely appreciate that week off. Andy Reid off a bye is a scary man, but I just don't see them getting healthier. The Pacheco reacquisition will be nice, assuming it works out, but I don't know. A lot of old men in that building.
A veteran Chiefs team off a bye in Arrowhead, the hardest stadium to play in the NFL. No team is going to want to play that in the playoffs.
I don't know. I think Josh Allen might want to finally have a crack at him.
And just quickly, the Buccaneers, I basically agree with everything you said. I completely thought they were going to fall apart when Mike Evans, Chris Godwin went down with injury. And since then, they've really taken the next step. And if you're a Buccaneers fan, you just kind of are left questioning, what if the defensive line was healthy the entire season? What if once the defensive line finally gets healthy, you had your receivers to throw to? So I think this Buccaneers team has been one of the more unluckier teams this season.
Yeah, those poor Buccaneers fans who've had to watch Tom Brady come retire on their team and win them a Super Bowl. It's just so hard to be them. Speaking of a team it is hard to be a fan of, though, and a team which is falling apart. The Chicago Bears lost to the Arizona Cardinals this week. And it's not that they lost because the Cardinals are a good team. They're above 500. Their defense is very well run. Their offense is very efficient. It's the way they lost. Scored 9 points, gave up a safety. Offense looked completely uninspired. Caleb Williams continues to ignore checkdowns. The offensive line continues to fail him in the pass blocking game. DeAndre Swift played very well. Didn't matter. Keenan Allen didn't look good. DJ Moore walked out the field. Cole Kmet unused. And all in all, teams like that organization is in a little bit of turmoil. I don't think they fire Matt Eberflus in the middle of the year. He's definitely gone after this season. Playing at home, I'm sure, will help them. But this is a organization in need of change and which is about to be in some real turmoil if they drop one of their next 2 games.
Well, DJ Moore walked off the field because he stepped out of bounds and he would not be allowed to be the first offensive player to touch
I'm
the
aware
ball.
of the rules. The walkout field and going and sitting on the bench is still not a good look. That also was not the only instance of our pal DJ Moore going and pouting this game.
Well, DJ Moore specifically, I think this speaks to kind of the lack of offensive structure and game planning. It seems like they don't really know how to get all of their receivers and all of their talent the ball. One week it's Rome Odunze. DJ Moore had one breakout week. They try and get Keenan Allen the ball. The offense just does not feel fluid and does not feel like a well-run operation. And then off of that, you have Caleb Williams not really playing all that well. He's making a lot of rookie mistakes. Well, he's still not fully caught up to the speed of the NFL when he's playing a very competently coached defense by Jonathan Gannon in the Arizona Cardinals. That's gotten better every week. So I think, you kind of expect the rookie mistakes with a young quarterback like Caleb Williams, but on the offensive side of the ball, they just do not look well coached. And then when it comes to Eberflus, his job security, getting fired at the end of this season, I think this is the game that we point to because we have the disaster Hail Mary situation last week. Then you have a Cardinals team that is very beatable. Talent-wise, you stack up perfectly with them. And then your defense, Montez Sweat not on the field. You make James Conner look like he's prime Walter Payton. You give up a 54-yard rushing touchdown with I think 12 seconds left in the first half that allows the Cardinals to get a big lead and momentum heading into halftime. So all around, a disaster for Matt Eberflus, and I think this is the game that gets him fired whenever that may be.
Dude, McCon about the James Conner thing. It didn't look that great, just at a massive volume. He was his normal level of efficiency with more carries.
He had 6.5 yards per carry.
DeMercado is the real story of this game. If they consistently get production out of Amari DeMercado, TCU, great, beat Michigan in a playoff game, and Trey Benson to pair with what they're getting out of Kyler Murray and James Conner, that is going to be a scary, scary rushing attack. That is a top 5 rushing offense in football. Leaving aside the Lions and the Ravens, that might be one of the best. I would not want to play this Cardinals team late in the year, and they could definitely grab the NFC West. That division is wide open. San Francisco dealing with a ton of injuries. They've already beat them this year. The Seahawks look like a mess. The Rams, they're healthy now. They're at 500 now. Are they going to stay that way? Is Puka Nacua going to throw another punch at Devin Witherspoon? All these things are up in the air. I'm very confident Arizona is at least going to be competitive down the stretch. I have a hard time seeing them fall off a cliff. And all in all, very encouraging things for that Cardinals organization.
Yeah, if I'm a 49ers fan, week 9, I was not a fan of watching. With the Rams getting out with a victory, they're getting healthier. The offensive line is getting healthier. The Rams' passing attack has gotten better since it was devastated by injury earlier in the season. And now with the Cardinals, their defense has been better every single week. They're really starting to gel on the offensive side of the ball. Trey McBride is showing just how good he is. They're finding more creative ways to get Marvin Harrison the ball. So I think it is going to be really hard down the stretch for this 49ers team with how not healthy they've been to get into the playoffs.
If CMC comes back, that offense looks completely different because not only do you have him, you have Jordan Mason who pairs exceptionally well with him. You can maybe do a power offense style thing with him, Juszczyk, Kittle on that left side behind what's left of Trent Williams, still a very good tackle. I don't think their season's over, but watching another team in your division gain momentum at the midway point of the year concerns you a little bit. Although, in my opinion, the 49ers faithful hate the Seahawks above all else, so they're probably okay with how this week went. They enjoy themselves seeing the Legion of Boom lose games. Moving on to the Sunday night matchup, though, the Minnesota Vikings persevere in a dynamic win over our pals, the Indianapolis Colts. And we're going to get into Anthony Richardson discourse later, but I'm a Vikings fan, so we get to talk about them first. That 21-13 number, it's a little bit deceptive. Will Reichard was playing injured this game, missed 2 field goals he would normally make in the first half. That should have been 6 more points. And the only touchdown the Colts scored was on a penalty which was picked up, where Sam Darnold got clubbed in the head and somehow did not have a 15-yard penalty awarded to it. So, in reality, this game should have been 27-6. Not a bad win for the Vikings. Sam Darnold throwing CTE interceptions, not good. Ed Ingram being the worst guard in football, being so bad he drags Brian O'Neill and Garrett Bradbury down with him, not good. Cam Robinson, however, fantastic in his debut as a left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. That encourages me greatly. Granted, the Ingram stuff brings me right back down, so I'm still at about a neutral point with the Vikings offensive line. All in all, good win, keep things rolling. You get to play, was it the Titans or the Jaguars next week? Whoever you get to play, it's a weak AFC South team who you presumably will beat. They're probably moving to 7-2.
I don't think we learned a lot about either the Colts or the Vikings. Maybe you leave this game as a little bit pessimistic for the Viking season. I think I do just slightly, because over the last few weeks, Sam Darnold has kind of shown shades of early career Sam Darnold, where he's made some less than stellar decisions throwing the ball down the field. We saw a couple not great interceptions. The offensive line, you hope it continues to be solid with Cam Robinson replacing Christian Darrisaw. Still was not as good as it was earlier in the season with Cam Robinson out there, and they replaced a guard too.
Ed Ingram was in the lineup all year. He's terrible. Thankfully, they have Dalton Risner. I'm just going to start calling him the Rizzler. They got the Rizzler, who is coming off the IL, who should presumably get into the rotation and start playing at some point in the next 2 weeks. He also, like Hawkinson, was banged up. Speaking of Hawkinson, though, looked good in limited uses during his debut. Obviously, he's playing very cautiously, trying not to get that knee injury going out of bounds, avoiding contact when he needs to. Jordan Addison had the best game of the season with that amazing catch of the year candidate in the back of the end zone. Not quite as good as Garrett Wilson's, but certainly up there. I'm not that worried. This was a good Vikings win. Without the Darnold CTE picks, it'd be a great Vikings win, but it's kind of what you get with Sam Darnold. You talk about the gunslinger archetype being dead. Him and Jordan Love are doing everything in their power to keep that sucker alive. It just means more in the NFC North.
Yeah, my biggest question about the Vikings is, when it comes to them making a deep playoff run, is will that offensive line stay healthy enough, and do they have enough depth on the defensive side of the ball to keep up with the production we've seen from their defense early in the season? I mean, they're a well-coached team, so they will be in the playoffs.
The Colts scored 6 points this week, so against that Vikings defense. So I don't know if the depth's a concern.
Yeah, but the previous 2 losses weren't that
The previous
great.
2 losses were against 2 of the quarterbacks who handle the blitz better than anybody else in football. Those are bad matchups. Admittedly, you look forward, if they want to win the NFC, they're going to have to beat the Lions. So a bad matchup is impending, but they'll lost that game by 3 points. The team you should be worried about is the Indianapolis Colts. People are going to use this game to try and justify, oh, see, Anthony Richardson should be getting snaps. He should have been out there starting. If you put Anthony Richardson against Brian Flores with 10 days to prepare for him, against this Colts offensive line which has been dealing with injuries and is young, he would have outscored his offense. He would have given at least 2 pick sixes to the Vikings defense. Richardson being in the lineup changes nothing. It doesn't boost the run game. It doesn't greatly aid them in this matchup. The Colts were always going to struggle offensively in this game. They need to keep Richardson on the bench. It's past the point of him getting experience, getting snaps, getting dropbacks. He can get that in practice. Right now, they need to focus on him not learning bad habits, which he will learn if he's inserted in this lineup. He still needs time to develop. He still needs time to sit on the bench and learn from Flacco. The Colts offense scoring 6 points does not change that at all.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts, we knew they're a better team with Joe Flacco, but they still don't have a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. And when he mentioned the run game, any boost to the run game Anthony Richardson would offer would be negated because he's just that bad of a passer right now. So I would be very surprised, outside of a Joe Flacco injury, if Richardson gets reinserted into this Colts offense at any point this season.
If they struggle 2 weeks in a row, or 3 weeks in a row, I could see maybe we talk about bringing AR back. But At this point, this is still a live season. You are by no means out of the playoffs, and Flacco gives you your best chance to win games and get in there. The AFC South is not good this year. The Titans are beatable. A lot of teams are going to pick up wins against them and knock their record down based off how terrible their offensive line is, as we saw Thursday.
And the Texans, they're not great either.
Excuse me, the Texans. That's who I was talking about. I don't need to talk about how bad the Titans are. Hey, they won this week, though.
They did.
When Will Levis gets back in that lineup, man, watch out. They're going to be a scary, scary team. Who needs DeAndre Hopkins?
That has been this week's video. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Use code Thicc on Underdog. Get bonus cash up to $1,000. Like the video, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.